Now that you've learned some basics about switch skills and developing switch skills, let's look at teaching cause and effect through switch activation, leading to teaching intentional communication. You can create your own cause and effect activities geared towards the individual student. Use the student response inventory discussed in Module 4 to learn your students' reflexive and voluntary movements. You find out their preferences, but how can you incorporate these movements into an enjoyable interaction? Let's find out. But first, it's important to realize that learning cause and effect is fundamental for students learning to communicate. They have to learn their actions cause responses. So the more motivating the response, the activity, the harder the student tries to communicate and then improve physically. Let's look at some different motivating fun switch-activated toys available for students in the lending library. This bump and go bubble train travels around the room blowing bubbles. The adapted color spin-out creates colorful designs and patterns. This adapted musical cymbal makes a percussive sound when the drumstick strikes the cymbal. This dinosaur lights up as it walks forward. It even roars. This O2 Cool adapted fan provides a tactile stimulation for students. And the vibrating stuffed wolf provides a different tactile experience. You can reach all the senses. Just try them out. As we learned in the last module, switch activation is determined through trial and error. What are the movements you observed? Let's start with Amos, a student with complex communication needs. The team observed that Amos reflexively jerks his left hand up and lets it fall. And then the placement of the switch. Where will you place it? Does it need mounted? Maybe above his left hand? Here's an example of a gooseneck mount with a wobble switch attached. You can mount it to the bed rails and adjust the mount to place it in the right position. And here's an example of another gooseneck mount that you can attach a different kind of switch to. Then, knowing your student, choose some switch toys or activities you think he might like. Try them out. Here's a switch-adapted fan and a switch-adapted mini MP3 player. Amos might like the fan blowing some air on him, or he might like to listen to music. It's all trial and error. You need to remember, Amos is a complex student and new to the idea of interacting with others. He may need hundreds or thousands of opportunities to get the idea he can control his world. There's one way of thinking about it. Start now and be consistent. You may see cause and effect, a voluntary movement, in 2 to 3 months, or 2 to 3 years. Or can simply say, this will never work. Don't give it a try, and you'd be absolutely correct. The idea is to just get started. First, use the information you gained from the student response inventory to look for any movements. Figure out what the student likes. If you can't see obvious likes and dislikes, try ideas from every move counts, clicks, and chats. This is a sensory-based approach to communication and assistive technology for individuals with significant sensory motor differences, developmental differences, and autism. Just teach cause and effect using movements and routines or switch activation. Then respond to any movements as if they were purposeful by attributing meaning. Let's see how this might work. You have a switch and a toy the student finds motivating. Model use of the switch so the student begins to get the idea of the purpose of the switch. Keep the activity brief to encourage more switch activation. Let him know he can turn on the music by pressing the switch. And just wait. See if he even accidentally presses the switch. Talk about how the student turned the music on. Gradually ease him into more intentional switch activation by moving the switch further and further from the student's switch site. Avoid the student swatting at the switch by keeping switch use purposeful and avoiding over-prompting by talking and encouraging, as well as physical touch of some sort. Let's take a look back at pre-intentional communicators. They do have limited comprehension of spoken language and symbols, and they may only understand meaning conveyed through sensory experiences or emotional tone. So real objects instead of photos or symbols. And the tone of voice is more meaningful than the message itself. Think about all the senses when working with pre-intentional communicators. So now that a student has a good understanding of cause and effect, the next step in learning intentional communication using switch activation is participating in meaningful communication exchanges. We usually begin with requesting more of highly motivating interactions during daily routines. Starting with more provides multiple opportunities during various interactions to communicate. These interactions lead the student to recognize he has the ability to communicate, to control, and engage with his world. Your team can create meaningful communication exchanges using the information you have already learned about your student, the switch site and activation method, the student's preferences and likes. Now you create communication opportunities that can be repeated throughout the day, and plan the interaction to teach the word more consistently each time. You start with a single message voice output device like a Big Mac, since it is large and brightly colored. The student can access the Big Mac directly by pressing on the button, but you can also connect a switch to the Big Mac to activate the message. Before beginning, you need to plan the interaction as outlined in the book. Choose the item or activity. Begin the interaction by playing or feeding as usual. After a few seconds or bites, stop the activity and explain to him that he needs to say more by pressing the switch. Since it's all about communication and not the motor act of activating a switch, we do not say, you need to press the switch. We say, you need to say more by pressing the switch. Go ahead and model the action for him. You can also provide physical support as needed to assist in developing the motor plan. Just fade this assist as soon as possible. Let's take a look at the physical support you can provide. You're going to support the body part that activates the switch. Start further away from the body part and move closer as needed. Place your hand under the body part and touch or nudge it. Guide the body part to the switch. Let's take a look at this scenario. The student uses his hand to activate this jelly bean switch. Your support begins away from the hand. Begin at the elbow. Move closer to the hand if needed. This is referred to as shared activation. Let's take a look at planning and interaction for Marissa. She likes the sound of barking dogs. You have dogs or your neighbors have dogs. Go ahead and record the dogs barking. Also record the word more on the Big Mac and set up the switch for activation, whether you are attaching a switch to the Big Mac or Marissa presses the Big Mac itself. Now that you have the interaction planned, you can carry it out. Refer to the progress monitoring checklist for the steps. Play the recording for 10 seconds or so and observe any reactions or changes in behavior. Stop the recording. Model activating the switch to say more. Then explain to the student what he needs to do. Say more by turning your head. Let's hear more. Press the button. You can say more. Use your finger to touch the button. Provide that all-important wait time. See if the student does initiate a movement. Consider shared activation if needed and play the recording again. Repeat, repeat, repeat. Don't worry if the student doesn't get it right away. Some students require more opportunities than you might think. Continue to model activating the switch. Continue shared activation. Carry out the interaction again and again, and make sure the routine is followed consistently. Here are some other things you can try. Provide less distractions when implementing the routine. Provide more excitement for the student. Try a new object or activity. Think outside the box for highly motivating activities. Think about sensory experiences and this book for ideas. And then finally, your student recognizes the ability to communicate. Providing highly desired objects or activities contributes to him learning intentional communication. At some point, the student reaches that aha moment, and then teaching additional routines or words becomes easier. Okay, you've reached the end of Module 5, Teaching Intentional Communication Through Switch Activation. Have fun with the next Nearpod activity, Time to Climb.